I'm sure that all of you have heard about the recent release of the Chinese LLM model called DeepSeek R1 that has set Nvidia stocks plummeting. I mean, it was all over the news and the internet, so it was a bit hard to miss. One of the main reasons behind all this drama is that DeepSeek is supposedly way cheaper to train and use compared to ChatGPT, only costing the Chinese company about $5 million to train, and it can also run on cheaper hardware while also being just as good, if not even better, than OpenAI O1 model. Some people went as far as saying that this is the end of OpenAI's dominance on the large language model market, but once again, the AI space proved to be very competitive, because OpenAI has just released their latest and greatest model, which is supposed to compete with DeepSeek R1. So the model I'm talking about today is called OpenAI O3 Mini, and you can try it for free in ChatGPT by enabling the reasoning feature. The same goes for DeepSeek R1. If you want to use it, you can go onto the DeepSeek website and enable the deepthink option. Now, to compare them against each other, I know that many of you are interested in using these models to write stories and scripts, so I'm gonna ask them to write an engaging story about an Indiana Jones-like adventurer who explores tombs and uncovers ancient artifacts using this prompt. So let's see which model is better at creative writing. So this is the prompt I used, and here are the results. So I just finished reading both of these stories, and I can say right off the bat that the story written by DeepSeek was a lot more intriguing than the one written by ChatGPT. Normally these large language models aren't very good at writing interesting stories, but I was pleasantly surprised by how good this was for a story written by AI. I have both of them up on the screen, so you can pause the video to read them if you want. Now, O3 Mini also did a pretty good job at following the prompt, but the story was a lot more generic, so I guess we'll have to give a point for creative writing to DeepSeek R1. But creative writing isn't really what these models' latest improvements have been focusing on, but rather their reasoning and problem-solving capabilities, for things such as math problems, science and coding. For example, let's ask both of these models to solve some calculus problems. So here we have a few calculus problems with double integrals. I went ahead and copied the first problem over here and pasted it into ChatGPT. As you can see, I had a bit of an issue pasting the problem over here, but that wasn't a problem because ChatGPT was able to figure out my request and also solve the problem very nicely over here. You can see that it shows every step that you need to follow in order to solve this problem. And if we take a look over here, it gave us an answer. Now, if we check with the solution over here, we can see that ChatGPT solved this problem correctly. Now, I did the same thing for DeepSeek over here, and this one spent a lot of time thinking about how to solve this problem. Note that ChatGPT once again was a lot faster at solving this problem, and here we have the solution. As you can see, a very nice and detailed solution to this problem, and the result is also correct. So both of them did a great job at figuring out how to solve this double integral problem. So we did the same thing with a college level physics problem, as you can see right over here, and I pasted it into ChatGPT. Here is the solution. As you can see, it gave us a detailed explanation of each step it took to solve this problem. And if we take a look at the final result over here, 7.67 meters per second, let's compare it with this solution. And yes, it's correct. So ChatGPT got the problem right. Now, if we take a look at DeepSeek over here, as you can see, it spent a lot of time thinking about how to solve this problem, but DeepSeek 2 got the solution right. So as you can see, both of these models are really good at solving college level problems, but keep in mind that they do tend to make mistakes sometimes, so you should take these answers with a grain of salt. Now that we've confirmed that both of these models are good at solving college level math and science questions, let's move on to the segment that we all have been waiting for, and that is coding. I know that many of you are interested in using these models to write code and build applications, and you would be happy or terrified to know that both the O3 Mini and the DeepSeek R1 are really good at writing code. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's start with something simple. I asked ChatGPT to make a simple snake game using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So this is the code. Let's copy it, and we're gonna go onto this online HTML editor and just paste the code and hit run. And this is the game you can see here on the right. So if I click, you can see that the game starts. We can go ahead and collect these red dots. As you can see, our snake is slowly growing. And if we hit our tail, as you can see, we die and we get to start again. So ChatGPT did a great job at this, but let's see if we can have it I edited the prompt and asked it to give it nice looking graphics and a score system, a dev screen, make some more food variations, and also improve the overall aspect and functionality of the game. And here's the code it generated for us. I'm gonna copy it and I'm gonna paste it over here. Let's click run. And as you can see, we have a better looking screen overall and also a restart button. And for some reason it's broken, so I'm gonna try that again. Okay, now second try, I'm gonna copy the code and I'm gonna paste over here. And as you can see, the game finally runs. And I can tell right off the bat that it looks a lot better. As you can see, we have a dev screen. We can also restart the game. And we also have more food variations. And you can see that we also have a nice score system. So yeah, ChatGPT did a pretty good job at following our prompt. Now let's see how DeepSeek R1 does. Now this is pretty difficult to test because DeepSeek keeps giving me this error, the server is busy, please try again later. You might also run into this issue quite often if you use DeepSeek, so I'm gonna give it a break and see how it works a bit later. Okay, so I finally got DeepSeek to respond. I used the exact same prompt and this is the code it generated. Let's go ahead and copy it and I'm gonna paste it and let's see how this works. Okay, so for some reason the game plays itself. I cannot control... look, I can control it. Alright, this looks pretty good. Notice that it moves a lot faster than the game generated by ChatGPT. And I also like the faded outline of the box. But for some reason it got stuck and it's not generating any more food for us to collect, so we're gonna have to... Alright. Okay, so for some reason, at some point it stops adding new food to the game, and this way there's nothing left for me to do aside from hit my head against the wall. But at least it works. And now the food just disappeared. Okay, so it's not great, definitely not quite what we were looking for, but at least it works. And now this is the previous game for comparison. So this is the game made by ChatGPT. As you can see, this one works just fine. You can just go on and it won't stop working. Visually, I don't think it looks quite as good as the game made by DeepSeek, but that's just on the visual part. At least this one is playable. And yeah, it works just fine. And for the game made by DeepSeek, for some reason it starts moving on its own and it can only be controlled using the arrows. And it appears this time it keeps generating new food, meaning that the game can go on and on forever, and I spoke too quickly. So yeah, these are the games. They are working pretty good. Most of the time at least. But yeah, that was the simple prompt. Let's go ahead and try something a bit more complex. Next up, I'm gonna ask ChatGPT to make me a Photoshop clone, or basically just a photo editing app that has features such as filters, crop and painting, and also allows us to upload and download the images. And this is the code that it generated. I'm gonna go ahead and copy it. And let's just paste it over here. And this is our Photoshop clone. Let's see if we can upload a picture. I'm gonna go ahead and select this picture of a wizard. And now over here we have a few filters such as grayscale, sepia and invert. Okay, this is some pretty basic stuff. Oh, okay, the crop mode is a bit broken. Yep, definitely broken, but let's go ahead and see if we can paint. Okay, it allows us to paint. It's not great, as you can see. Let's change the brush size. We can also change the paint color. Okay, so this is the program. It's not great, but let's see if we can download the image. And it does allow us to download the image. This is it. It looks great, I know. And now moving over to DeepSeek. And yeah, this is not looking very good for DeepSeek right now. Be right back. And I finally got it to work. As you can see, I did not specify I want the code to be written in HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and it wrote the code in Python, but that's not a problem. I'm just gonna copy it and paste it into this online Python IDE, and let's see if this works. And it appears it gives us some issues. We don't have the module tkinter installed, which is obvious because this is an online IDE. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna ask it to write it using HTML and CSS and JavaScript. Okay, I got it to rewrite the code, and this is what we are left with. Let's upload an image. I'm gonna go ahead and upload the same image of a wizard. And first of all, let's try a couple of filters. Okay, these work pretty well. For some reason the first filter over here doesn't seem to do anything, but the other filters, they just keep applying over and over. Not too bad. Okay, for brightness, I changed the brightness a little bit and the whole image turned to black, and now I can't seem to get it back. And pressing on reset filters doesn't really do anything, so I'm just gonna go ahead and upload the image again. And that doesn't work either. Yay. Okay, I'm gonna run the program again. Okay, let's see if the contrast slider does anything. Okay. And eventually the image disappeared. Okay, so I believe it's applying these effects in a wrong way, and that's why the image keeps disappearing. But whatever, let's go ahead and see if we can crop the image. Okay, this is pretty broken as well. Let's try the brush. Okay, so it appears that it finally cropped the image, but I'm not entirely sure what's happening right now. Let's see if the brush works. Okay, the brush does work. Not too great, but it does work, so that's a bonus. And yeah, that's it. The reset filters button does not work, and there's not much else to it. Let's see if we can download the image. Okay, so it does allow us to download the image, and this is it. You can see that it did apply the filters. So yeah, that's okay. This one is also a bit broken, but what can you really expect? Let's go ahead and move on to the next test. So next up, I'm gonna ask ChatGPT to do something a bit more complicated, to make a 3D game of Asteroid Blaster using 3JS, and to make the game look pretty, add a score system and also a dev screen with a reset button. Okay, we got the code. And this is our game. I'm not sure how to control. Okay. So to control it, I have to use the arrow keys, but for some reason the mechanics are a bit weird. Let's see if we can shoot something. Okay, we can also shoot these asteroids. That's good. But pressing the forward key will just shoot you in that direction, and that usually gets us killed, so we're just gonna stay here for now. And as you can see, the score works pretty good. We have these 3D asteroids coming at us, and we can also shoot them, and we have a game over screen. So yeah, I can say that ChatGPT handled this prompt pretty well, even if the game is a bit buggy. But let's move over and see how DeepSeek handled this prompt. And here we have a pretty similar looking game, but this time we can move in multiple directions, and we can't really shoot anything. I think I'm supposed to like go through these circles, but for some reason I can't really get to them. Maybe Okay, so I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do with this one, but as you can see, it's still a 3D game. It's not really working or anything, but yeah, and I think I'm gonna give this point to ChatGPT because at least it made a playable game, because this one is definitely not playable. Also, I have to mention, it's funny how these circles just keep appearing even after we got the dev screen. Next up, I asked ChatGPT to make an animated graph showing the price of Nvidia stock over the past 10 years. I'm just gonna copy the code, run it. Okay, so I asked ChatGPT to fix the issue and let's see how that worked. And now the animation does work. As you can see, it's making a pretty nice animation. Even though this data is not accurate, at least it did do what we asked it to. So that's pretty nice. And here is the code generated with DeepSeek. And this time it does seem to work. I mean, it did make a graph, but it's not animated. Well, at least this data seems to be somewhat accurate, because if you remember the graph made by ChatGPT, even though it looked good, the data wasn't really accurate, and this one seems to be pretty accurate. Actually, let me check it out. Yep, this is actually pretty accurate. I'm impressed because I tried this prompt before and none of the AIs were able to give me accurate data on the Nvidia stock price. Now let's see if we can actually make this look prettier, and here is the improved version. And I have no idea what's happening over here. I mean, it definitely looks better, but it does not work better. If anything, it just messed up the whole thing. So let's go ahead and ask DeepSeek to fix these issues, and it did not get any better. Now let's ask ChatGPT to make a 3D rotating cube animation in space. And it is indeed a 3D animation of a rotating cube in space. Nice. And this one is made by DeepSeek. It looks much better, honestly. I mean, I'm actually pretty impressed. This is quite nice, way nicer than I expected. But let's go ahead and try something more interesting. Let's ask them to make a game of life. Yep, this does seem to work pretty well. And let's see what DeepSeek has come up with. Okay, for some reason this... Oh, okay, now it works. Yeah, it works pretty good. Now let's make a 3D animation of a snowball sliding down the side of a mountain using 3JS. And this is a pretty good animation of a 3D snow globe sliding down the mountain. Now this mountain doesn't really look really good, it's just a cone, but overall works pretty well. Now let's see what DeepSeek has come up with. Okay, now we can see something, but the snowball isn't really doing much, so let's see if we can get DeepSeek to fix this. And this is the result. I don't really know what's happening over here. It seems like the snowball has some sort of trail. It almost looks like it has a tail, but it's not really what we were looking for, so I'm gonna have to give this one to ChatGPT. And lastly, let's try something that I know many of you are interested in, and that is web development. So I'm gonna ask the AIs to make a website landing page for a pizza business, to give it a modern UI/UX, and to also have working buttons and overall a good web design. And honestly, this looks pretty nice. It also has some images, or at least one image, which is pretty impressive. I have never seen an AI use images when it comes to making web templates. So yeah, that's interesting. Okay, the button just sends us down here. Over here we have a few pizza options, and it seems like these don't really do much. Over here we have a form, a header and a footer, which is pretty nice. I mean, I'm sure that if you took this and customized it and also added some more functionality, then you can actually use this for a simple pizza business template. Nice. Now let's see what DeepSeek was able to come up with. And oh, okay, now this is something different. Okay, honestly, I'm quite surprised. This is the first time that I asked an AI to make a web design for me, and it also added these images and all these nice effects. Like this button works. We have some hovering effects over here, and these buttons also work. Nice, this is actually really nice. I'm quite impressed. And yeah, it's also responsive. Yeah, this is quite nice. I'm honestly impressed. So now let's take a look at a few online leaderboards. As you can see, we have over here the Chat Arena LLM, and this one is a community-driven evaluation for the LLM and AI chatbots. And over here we can see that DeepSeek has a score that is 52 points above the OpenAI O3 mini model, but this is again very subjective. Now, if we take a look at this other leaderboard by volume, we can see that DeepSeek still manages to beat the O3 mini model by a few points over here on the standard benchmarks. So we have very similar results for reasoning. For coding, for some reason, we don't have any comparison, any result. And over here for math, we can see that OpenAI O3 mini beats DeepSeek by only a very small percentage. And lastly, this is another LLM leaderboard. Over here we can see that the O1 mini model has a score of about 79.7% on a Google proof benchmark. And if we scroll a little bit, over here we have the DeepSeek R1. And this one has a score of 71.5, so about an 8.2% difference on the GPQA benchmark. So this was a simple comparison between the O3 mini and DeepSeek R1 models. Many of these tests were quite subjective and down to each individual's preferences, so let me know in the comments which model do you think produced the best results. What I can say for certain is that I had quite a hard time using DeepSeek online because it has such a high traffic during the day. I kept getting this server busy error, which was quite annoying. Another thing I can confirm is that OpenAI O3 mini was a lot faster than DeepSeek, sometimes more than twice as fast. So overall the results were pretty mixed. They are both on the same level, but keep in mind that you can also run DeepSeek locally on your computer, so you can avoid all of these server busy errors, which is a nice advantage. Only problem is that you need more than just a beefy GPU to run the full 671 billion parameter version, which is the one that we looked at today. Overall, both of these models are great choices and I will use both of them for my tasks. The best part is that both ChatGPT and DeepSeek are in their early stages and I can't wait to see what they will be capable of in the future. So this is it, let me know which model you prefer down in the comments. If you made it this far, I would appreciate a like and subscribe for more AI related content in the future. Thanks for watching.